So, once again, you are locked into the sounds of Paleblu on Represent Radio, and I'm very delighted to be joined by a good friend and all-round boss man, Joe Goss, man. How's it going, Joe?
It's going very well, man. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Well, here we are.
Indeed.
Here we are. I brought you in today because you've got some special news that you've got to share about Soulvent. So take it away.
Yes, I do. So very pleased to announce that Soulvent has now joined the Hospital Records family. We have a project coming out with them at the end of July, on the 29th of July, Friday. It's called Soulvent Meets Hospital, funnily enough.
Wow.
And it's a remix project that we've been working on. It's 14 tracks. 7 tracks remixed by Soulvent artists, and then 7 tracks remixed by hospital artists from the accompanying catalogues from both labels. And yeah, it's like the first sort of announcement piece on what we're doing. But effectively, we've joined them, and you know they clearly know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
I think so too.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think most people would.
Yeah. It's over 25 years now. Hey?
Yeah. 26, I think,
26
at the moment. Yeah. So, but yeah, we basically just kind of joined the wider family and umbrella. So we are still doing all things Soulvent, but with the backing of Hospital, which is fantastic.
I've listened to the remix project, and there is a lot of tasty stuff on there.
There's a few slappers.
Yeah. Couple of groovers, couple of bangers.
Movers and shakers.
Movers and shakers. Well, you know, we're talking about the news right now and this amazing announcement, but let's take it back. What is it? Is it 9 years?
I think it will be
2014.
Yeah. It's 8 years now.
Yeah.
I think it's soon to be 9.
Yeah. Let's take it back to then. So let's talk about the kind of concept of Soulvent and where it came from and how it came about and who it came from.
For sure. So Soulvent Records was started by myself and Jack Polar Higgins from Polar and Bryson, and Liam Holyoke Rackle. So the three of us. But Soulvent was actually like the successor to another label called Discus Records, which you will remember.
I remember that one.
Yeah. Which involved your
Cable
brother.
days.
Exactly, yeah. Cable, RIP Cable, one of London's best clubs at the time.
Involved me sneaking in at 15 years old to MC at Cable with some very awful lyrics, which...
Yeah, I mean, a likely story for yourself, right?
Yeah. Hey! People pay me to do that now. Like, oh yeah, I mean, me sneaking in, yeah, of course, but it's like, yeah, come a long way. But carry on, sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's all good. So yeah, you remember, I think so. Discus ran for about 1.5 years, predating Soulvent, and we started Soulvent in 2014. So I assume that Discus must have started like mid 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it was your brother Kyle and Sean Coe and Jake Coombs, I think the three of them who started it. And so initially, like, we were all friends living in the same area and stuff. And I remember, it must have been your brother or someone who reached out to me, but they were quite interested in involving me and Liam and Jack in Discus. And I remember at the time we were a bit like, what do we know about running a record label? Like,
yeah.
But we kind of ran at it and did it for 1.5 years, and we all, you know, I think we're figuring things out about how to do it and ourselves and stuff like that. So for me, that was a really important part of the whole process. Like, I don't think Soulvent would be in existence without that. So big up to those boys for that, you know.
Big up to Eastern Edge Studios.
Of course,
and
yeah.
Kyle.
Well, we'll come to both of them later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Soulvent, I guess, in effect, kind of aimed to emulate or continue what we were doing with Discus, but maybe just kind of learning some lessons from having done it for a little bit, really. But yeah, main thing was being like to support sort of young, up and coming, like, local talent, because obviously at the time with Discus, we were all producing and making music, and I think we just kind of continued to further that with Soulvent, and it feels pretty surreal to be sat in this chair now with all the developments that have happened since we kind of continued. But yeah, I mean, it's been strength to strength. It's been, you know, an absolute pleasure to be involved in the careers of these young, talented, up-and-coming artists and kind of shape and grow them into who they are, or just give them a platform and some support structure, really. So
yeah, and it's interesting to say that you started the label off as just about, you know, supporting local talent, and you look at Soulvent's roster now, it's international. You've got Asko and Alero from Finland, you've got Mountain from over in Japan, like, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot more. So it's very like much from those humble kind of like local grassroots beginnings to where it's got to now is pretty astounding, I'd say, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
that.
it's crazy to have known you and all the lads the past, like, you know, 10 odd years basically, and to see where it's got to is mad. It's mad, you know. Very mad. But yeah, let's kind of talk about Soulvent's journey as a label. And I think particularly the first few years, the albums that Polo and Bryson put out, let's talk about those a little bit and kind of like how they came into like fruition and where it took Polo and Bryson, because obviously Jack being the main kind of A&R at Soulvent is a very big part of the label. For sure. And still is, and is also doing Polo and Bryson. So let's talk about that a little bit.
For sure, yeah. So we put out Jack and Harry's first album this time last year. Is the title of the album, not when we put it out. We put it out in August 2016, and yeah, I mean that was a particularly kind of defining moment for the label and for those guys as artists. I think there was 15 tracks on that record, but I mean, you know, when we started Soulvent, Polo and Bryson didn't even exist yet. Harry was still going under the name Bryzone.
Yeah, and it was Bry Polar back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Which I mentioned to Jack in an interview a couple of years ago, and he went a little red cheeked, I think, rosy cheeked.
Well, I mean,
Jack.
If you do your digging, there's actually there's an old Bryzone track out there with some vocals from Jack Polar on, I think. But don't tell you that I sent you there. Don't tell him that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that, but
it's called Little Do I Know.
Jack, I'm coming for you.
But yeah, no. So Polo and Bryson were like obviously a huge kind of part of it. But yeah, I mean, I guess like, you know, early on we all were doing this part time. It was a full on like passion project, like hobby, and you know we were all kind of making music individually at the time. So we wanted to give ourselves a platform as well as other people, and it really just grew from there. Like so, in the early couple releases on Soulvent, you've got individual releases from Jack as Polar and Harry as Bryzone, and then I think the music EP, which was their first like debut release as a duo, I think. That kind of came about, and I think we were all, both themselves and you know, me and Liam and anyone else involved, were a bit like, oh, okay, we're onto something here. So you know, we kind of helped grow and shape them. But I mean, often I find like artists don't actually need a lot. You know, like those guys have proven that they had greatness destined for them for a long time. But yeah, so there's Polo Bryson. Who else? Obviously Galaxy as well.
Yeah.
On Shogun now.
Yeah.
But B Motion was also there right at the start. That was
first release. Yeah. Circles, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Circles with John Lillygreen, and then Need Your Love. Those were like the first couple of releases. Yeah. And yeah, it's been wicked, man. Obviously, like B Motion went on to sign with Viper. Polo and Bryson and Galaxy went to go on and work with Shogun. And I think like as well, that was a real like seal of approval in terms of like, oh wow, okay, like if they're getting involved over there, then we must be doing something right. Yeah. So, you know, I think because we were all doing it part time and had other interests and jobs taking up our you know, most of our time, we kind of just kept it going in as a back burner. Like, you know, we kept the same energy going into it. No delusions of grandeur. We didn't think we were going to get famous or make loads of money overnight, because that wasn't why we started it in the first place. And it could just kind of continue to build and grow. And, you know, I think thankfully, like some people, including, you know, up-and-coming producers, were taking note of what we were doing. And clearly something about it made them want to get involved, because as the label's grown, one of the beautiful things is like, you know, it's all the artists and creative people involved in this endeavor that push it forwards, and that's really nice and exciting to be a part of, because if everyone involved is like trying to, you know, hit 11 out of 10 every time, then naturally it's just going to mean everything keeps improving. But yeah, I mean, as I say, you know, I'm old now.
No, you're not. God.
Well, 30
Well,
this year.
It's funny you mentioned your age. I'm not going to talk about your age. I wanted to talk about you, Joe, because like you're label manager at Soulvent. You've been doing that for a couple of years now. But what were you doing before that?
So
Because you didn't learn, you weren't in the industry like as a label manager or something like that. You were a musician for a long time.
True, yeah,
you were a
yeah.
touring musician.
Yeah, so I suppose to take it back there, yeah, so I've been playing instruments since I was like 10 or 11, and I'm very blessed to come from quite a musical family.
Yeah.
So my old man used to run a record label called Wawa 45s, which he started with my uncle Chris. But similar to the kind of Soulvent thing, like my dad's day job, he was a social worker.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a full-on passion project thing. He was doing that while I was growing up, and then obviously my uncle Chris started Hospital Records with London Electricity. So that was always like a constant kind of inspiration as well. And then yeah, I mean, I've done all sorts of things, man. I've worked in kitchens, worked in bars, you know. Thankfully, things that I think have given me some good people skills to work with the people that we do now and you know, kind of adapt to certain environments and stuff. But yeah, so I was doing music on and off like in my teens growing up, and then around about like 18 I started sessioning for an artist called Danae Moore. She's like a singer-songwriter who's based in Stratford at the time, and my brother had been recording some demos with her, and she was looking for a drummer, and he was like, oh, my brother's a drummer. So, you know, jumped in there and we worked together for like 6 years or something like that, which was crazy. Did some really cool like bucket list stuff myself. We did later with Jules Holland. We played Glastonbury a few years later. All sorts of crazy stuff, you know, playing like a lot of the sort of household names of UK festivals and stuff like that. So that for me was super formative and, you know, amazing. And I'm glad I had that experience to kind of be where I am now, because I think it gives me some sort of insight into the demands on an artist.
Yeah.
And, you know, because it's obviously great like opportunities and exposure to go out on stage in front of loads of people and play. But as a human being, it's also quite nerve-wracking and you can be quite anxious and you want to like, you know, do your best. So I think it was really insightful for me to have those experiences. And yeah, I think I stopped sort of performing like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And sort of since then I've been like really focusing on the label. But, you know, I was very blessed to obviously have Liam and Jackie involved so heavily from the start. And it's always been a bit of a give and take, like shared responsibility between the three of us up until a few years ago anyway. But yeah, it's, you know, I don't think any of us would be in the position we're in now without one another, which has been wicked.
Yeah. It's mad. Do you think you'll ever go back to like...
I hope so.
Being a musician.
I hope so. I mean, I have been thinking recently, you know, it'd be nice to kind of utilize some of my playing skills with like some of the artists that we're working with.
Yeah.
I mean, even just to get in the room and try and write, because I think obviously so many artists within the electronic space are kind of isolated and work remotely. So yeah, hopefully you might hear a couple little licks on some tunes soon, you know.
I'm sure I will. So it's been a month now since that incredible...
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It's been a month since the amazing humidity of Albania and the sea and the beach and the music. What was your highlight of the festival? And I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for the Soulvent Day. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
I
appreciate your apology.
I'm sorry. I had to play somewhere else.
That's okay. Yeah, that's how it should be, really.
Wow.
Highlight has to be the boat party. I think that was on the Thursday. We were the last boat to go out, and the boat left late, but that actually kind of worked in our favour. It was a safety first thing on leaving late. So apologies to anyone who had to wait. But yeah, it meant we were out like, you know, for golden hour when the sun was setting, which was beautiful, and just all the artists absolutely shelled it. And it was just a really like electric experience, like an amazing atmosphere.
Such a beautiful country.
Yeah,
just
for sure.
Stunning. Like,
absolutely, super picturesque. And like, yeah, because it was a little bit later, I think the water was a bit choppier than it would have been if we'd gone out earlier. So I remember at one point, like, Rich Vizionobi spat a bar about being off balance, and then the boat rocked everyone, which was like poetry in motion, literally. But yeah, I mean, you know, that experience like was just nuts, man, because I've been working quite hard again, like as everyone was over COVID for, you know, 18 months, 24 months, and especially I think in industries that rely on social interaction and you know, actually being in a room with one another and sharing ideas and stuff. That boat was very emotional for me. I cried a little bit because it was really nice to see all of the hard work that everyone's putting in pay off. And all the artists showed it. Shout out Vector particularly, because he picked up a set last minute for our Japanese artist Mountain, who couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And
he's coming to live in the UK as well. For
Mountain.
Yeah.
I think he arrives this Sunday.
Amazing.
Which is nuts. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll come back to that in a minute, because that in itself is ridiculous. I can't quite believe we have an artist moving over.
Yeah. That's pretty nuts. Yeah, I mean, the next question, going on favourites. And I know as a label manager, this is probably a hard question. What's been your favourite release to work on this year so far?
Oh, this year so far. I mean, obviously, it's been quite bucket list to work with Hospital and work with their catalogue, and offer those opportunities to, you know, the roster and the artists that we work with. Exclusive for you. I've been working.
Oh yeah, you heard it here first.
Been working on the second instalment on the Soul Music series. So we did the first VA compilation, Soul Music 2020 in 2020.
Yeah.
And got the second one working for November later this year.
Nice.
So, and you know, I mean, I've always enjoyed like compilation projects, because, you know, you can really encompass like a varied sound and work with different artists and stuff. So, and I'm still working on that now, it's not finished, but you know, those projects where it's like there's a lot more moving parts and stuff, but it feels really satisfying and rewarding too.
I mean, the last one was like over 30 tracks.
I think it's 31.
There's a lot of music to work on, man.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a daunting task, but you know, it's always like a new challenge and fresh. There's always fresh music coming in, and it's wicked, man. You know. Yeah.
Let's bring it back to Mountain then. You said you had some exciting stuff.
Well, he's moving over to the UK officially. He's going to be here for 2 years, and that in itself, just as a statement, is pretty mind blowing. Because, you know, obviously music can transcend borders and oceans and stuff like that, and you know, the fact that drum and bass even kind of made its way over to him in Japan to inspire him and, you know, get him involved and interested in getting into this music, and then kind of fast forward a few years, he's now moving over here to kind of chase his dream. It's crazy, man. Like, and I'm really excited to have him over here and just welcome him into the family even, you know, more. Have him down at the studio.
Yeah.
And
big up Shigeta.
Yeah, for sure,
what
man.
A lad.
Yeah. We'll be taking him out for beers, you know, obviously. But yeah, that's crazy. Like, so his debut album came out with us on the 4th of March earlier this year. Yeah. And that marked 100 releases on the label.
And it was an amazing album. It was just like very emotive, dance floory. Like, I hadn't heard something like that for a while. I was like, wow, this is what amazing dance floor music can sound like. Yeah.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Finally, what's next for Soulvent in the next couple of months?
What's next? Well,
that you can talk about. Come on, Joe, mate. Like,
so we got a few more releases to tie up the year, including obviously the Soul Music compilation. Yeah. A couple other bits we're working on. Yeah, obviously the Hospital Meet Soulvent compilation coming out 29th of July. We've been branching out into events more since joining with Hospital, as obviously they've got a good understanding of the events game. So it's nice to, you know, be in an environment there where we're kind of seeing it happen more rather than just like listening to the music. So there's a couple of events that we're working on at the moment. Should be something coming at Pickle Factory later this year.
Amazing.
In November. Not too much otherwise I can speak on like dates wise and stuff.
Yeah.
And then music, few more releases tying us up for this year, and then we have quite a number of releases coming next year.
Yeah.
I think we're going for 2 or 3 albums in a year, which is like the most we've ever done.
That's ambitious. That's going to be mad.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's the producers who make that possible.
Which producers?
I mean, Inmost might be some of those producers.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Those are all I can mention from now. I mean, if you have a look at the singles that we've done recently on the label, you might be able to see
to suss out who it is.
A certain Star Wars related MC, you know.
Wow. Album.
Perhaps.
Mad. Potentially, maybe. Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. It's not often that I get to chat to like one of my good mates, as well as an amazing industry man and hard worker. So thank you so much for coming down, man. You know, you're always welcome here.
Absolute pleasure, you sweet talker. I'll come back anytime.